And welcome to Thrift Shop Biography. This is the one about Freddie Mercury. Thank you for listening. Hello, Cleo.
Hello, Richard.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right, thanks. So, we have been reading a book about Freddie Mercury.
Yes, written by Peter Freestone, who was his assistant for a really long time, from about 1978, 77, 78, right to the end of his life. So it's his autobiography, technically.
Yeah. We should explain that we only do these books if the person doesn't have their own autobiography.
Yes, that's right.
And Freddie Mercury doesn't.
No.
And actually, from this book, it sounds like he probably never would have written it. It's like he almost ignores the first 18 years of his life.
Yes, he really didn't want to tell anybody about his childhood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I find that frustrating because my favourite part of these books that we read is actually the early life and the rise to fame. Yeah. And you don't really get any of that with this book.
No, you really don't. Yeah, so he would never have written it.
We'll never know Freddie's actual story, but what we can know is the story of Freddie from the people who were very close to him and saw him on a daily basis. But also all you get from that really is the later part of his life. Because
that is what you get, yeah.
Which is fascinating and interesting, and
it is fascinating. You really get to know him. What's that film they made about
Bohemian Rhapsody?
Yeah, that was it. That sort of showed you his past a little bit.
Yeah, I didn't like it.
Did you not?
No, because they mess around with the timeline. I mean,
they totally mess around with the timeline. Yes.
I think it's difficult when you're telling somebody's life story in 2 hours. You kind of almost have to mess around with the timeline in order to fit everything in. But it distorts the history a bit, so I'm not a fan of that happening.
Yeah, you're right. It doesn't. It's an artistic interpretation, but it's not fact. Yeah, so this is much more real.
Well, is it? This is real from Peter Freestone's perspective.
Yes.
Yeah, so I do take...
Very much so.
And I think there are resentments and a competitiveness between Peter Freestone and other people in Freddie's life.
Yes.
And I think that comes through in this book.
I agree.
I mean, he barely mentions Jim Hutton, really.
That's exactly the point I would have made.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't even say... Freddie fell in love with this bloke and then how it happened, and then it seemed to go really well, so he moved in. He doesn't even say any of that, which makes you think that, outsiders moving in was a threat, definitely.
Yeah.
And he does say that he loved Freddie, he'd done anything for him.
I get that there is some kind of politics coming into play on this book about the relationships of Freddie's inner circle.
Definitely, especially later.
Yeah, this is one side of the story, but that's fine because autobiographies are one side of the story.
That's right. That is, of course, yeah.
We should get straight into it, I think.
Let's go.
Freddie Mercury.
Not his real name.
It's not his real name.
Everyone knows that, don't they?
I don't know. Maybe not.
Oh, well, his real name was Farrokh Bulsara.
Oh, I read it Farouk.
Farouk. Wouldn't that be double O?
Oh, I don't know. How many O's has it got?
1 O, 2 R's.
I thought it was O and a U. I can't remember now. I'm not looking at it.
Farouk sounds more like a real name. Anyway, it's Freddie.
We're going to call him Freddie.
Freddie, yeah. Yeah, his parents were Indian. They actually came from Bulsar in Gujarat. So I'm thinking Bulsara was people who came from Bulsar.
I think that's a very good deduction to make, yes.
Anyway, we could do a brief history of him, even though it's not in the book, that he had Parsi Indian parents. And his dad worked for the British Colonial Office, so they got sent over to Zanzibar to work there, which was under British rule or part of British colony. So then they sent Freddie back to India from the age of 8 to go to boarding school. So he was without a family around him from 8. Yeah, it's that old thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
He was actually in bands at school and played the piano when he was in India on his own and got really good at that stuff. He moved back just in time for there to be a revolution in Zanzibar. And so off went the Bulsara family to West London.
Yeah.
Where Freddie went to Ealing Art College. It's quite a start in life. But, it does say at some point in this book that Freddie had servants when he was a kid. So they were quite well off.
Yeah, well, it was at the Indian boarding school, I think, there were servants, because Peter Freestone had been to an Indian boarding school himself. So he said that there were servants there, and he's basically waited on hand and foot his whole life.
That's exactly right. It's totally natural for him to become a pop star with people driving him and people looking after him and cooking for him. Yeah, that does make sense. The way he sort of peacocks around, he's always had privilege.
Yeah.
But he's still an exceptional person in that. I really get that he's one of those people with the energy, the crazy energy. He's one of those.
Oh, yeah, 100%. What's interesting about him, remember back in the day when we knew Queen in like the 80s?
Yeah.
Did you even realise that he was Indian, had Indian heritage?
No, I had no idea.
I didn't either.
No. He was just a rock star. There's not a chance in hell I even knew he was gay. I just thought he was a flamboyant rock star.
He's just Freddie Mercury.
Yeah, he did amazingly defy definition, didn't he?
Yeah, he was just a truly unique, like his own person. But there were no kind of glimmers of Indian heritage or anything there.
No way.
I guess maybe because as a young boy in India, he was so taken with English rock music that actually he became the quintessential English rock star.
Yeah, maybe. But also he was sent to British boarding schools. So he's very well-spoken, British accent.
Right.
You know, he had a British passport because it was a British colony.
Uh-huh.
So he seems very, very English.
With a lot of teeth.
I know, every single photo in Peter's book, he's got his mouth shut.
Oh.
You wouldn't know. He's got these massive teeth when he...
Yeah, have you seen the pictures of him as a little boy? I mean, he just...
Just a face full of teeth.
It looks like he's got comedy teeth in it.
Oh.
Yeah, there's just too many.
Oh my God, it's just occurred to me.
What?
That when Freddie joined up with Brian May and Roger Taylor in the 1970, the band was called Smile.
Oh.
And he fought to change it to Queen.
Wow. Of course.
No wonder he couldn't be in a band called Smile. He was obviously really conscious about it, because you wouldn't have your mouth shut in all those photos otherwise.
Yeah. Apparently he had 4 extra incisors, which is incredible.
Oh, and it says he's always losing his boyfriends to younger, prettier models. So he must have had a bit of a complex. Mind you, he was shagging about with everybody anyway.
There's a huge insecurity. Yeah, but him shagging about is insecurity as well.
That's true.
This is the typical thing that we learn from these books. There's little Farouk Bulsara. Freddie Mercury is the mask making up for those insecurities, which is allowing him to play out.
That's so true.
A lot of the big stars have it. They have a different name, and it's not just because they didn't think their name was inappropriate to be a star. It's so they can have a different persona to act more confident.
Yeah, of course.
And stuff. Yeah.
Oh, he can create the person he really wants to be. And then he does, and he becomes that person. It doesn't seem false, though.
No, it's not false, because it's part of his personality, isn't it?
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I also think the Peter Freestone, the guy who wrote this book, does say, like we said at the beginning, that Freddie Mercury never wrote his autobiography and was unlikely to. He says that Freddie was always a butterfly. And I take the butterfly as Freddie Mercury, and the chrysalis and the caterpillar was Farouk Bulsara.
Yes, that's true. That's it.
And the transformation is about, and he said that Freddie never spoke about his life as a caterpillar or a chrysalis.
Right.
Rarely spoke about the first part of his life, only since he became the butterfly that was Freddie Mercury. I thought that was a really good analogy.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
But also, Peter Freestone only came in to Freddie Mercury's life once he was already established as Freddie Mercury.
Yeah, that's
maybe
right.
If there were people who knew him before, he maybe would open up to them more. I don't know.
Yeah, but I've seen I've literally seen every Queen documentary ever because I love them. And they all seem to say when they, like the band, Brian May, Roger Taylor, John Deacon, by the time they met Freddie, he was already Freddie.
Right, yeah.
He was just this really flamboyant, really confident, just owned himself person. And he used to follow them around saying, I want to join your band, I want to join your band. They would go, no. I think he followed them around for about 2 years. This is not in the book. This is me trying to remember things from documentaries. And then eventually they went, oh, right, you can try out. Because I think they'd lost a singer or something. Because they just thought he was a bit too much for them. And then they finally let him in.
Do you know what? Can I be really honest about it? I hated this book. I thought it was one man's perspective who obviously came with an agenda to show how he was close to Freddie Mercury and he was there at all the important bits. And he's reporting minuscule detail so that we have no question that he was there at all times. I think at some points, and we'll get to it, it's so intrusive of Freddie Mercury, I felt odd reading it. And I think it's all because Peter Freestone wants us all to know how close he was to Freddie Mercury.
But I totally agree with you, because I looked him up and he's made a living from Freddie Mercury for the rest of his life, like running tours and writing this book. And
so he's like the English Priscilla Presley.
Yes, he is. But also he seems like such a servant and so in awe of this bloke. But he started as a running wardrobe, which isn't particularly high up in wardrobe. It's not like you're creative. You're literally doing the washing and hanging out costumes, making sure they're there for people to wear. So it's
sniffing jock straps.
Yeah. So it's a sort of servitude. There's an element of servitude to him, where, like a butler, where you are that person, you're that role, you'll do anything, you're dog's body.
Oh my God, he's Freddie Mercury's Paul Burrell, isn't he?
He is like a butler.
Yes. Oh, it all makes sense.
The dedication
now.
is like a loyal dog, and
yeah,
he absolutely loves his master. He would do anything for his master.
And he's jealous of the people that Freddie Mercury actually is in love with, to the fact where he doesn't really mention them in this book.
Yes.
He's playing them down.
Yeah, he really loves it when he's got these blokes that he goes out with for a bit and they argue, and then he gets rid of them.
Yes.
They got rid of, they're flown off on a conquer. He loves those stories.
Yeah.
Tells you all of those people.
Yeah.
Doesn't like his position being usurped. Yeah, it's like a really bitchy butler. It's Paul Burrell. He is.
He is.
Yeah. Really early on, when he's at the ballet at the beginning, he says there's something about, a lot of these men were gay, but I had a girlfriend. Something strange like that. He says it once, and then the rest of the book is full of pictures of all these gay men with him in, all with moustaches.
They all look the
Absolute
same.
Bunch of clones.
Every single one of them looks the same. It's
Every
so funny.
single one. And you're going, there's no way you've still got a girlfriend. And I don't know why you said you did.
Yeah.
Because he's become one of them. But he's still the person that, like that story with Prince Andrew, they've all got nicknames, girls' names, nicknames. He's Phoebe.
Yes.
And Freddie says to Phoebe, take Andrew's plate. Get rid of his plate, to Prince Andrew. And then Prince Andrew says, I always thought he was called Peter, because he'd known him from the ballet.
Yeah.
That's one of his most happy memories in his list of happy memories, because Prince Andrew actually knew that he was Peter. So that says to me that Freddie calling him Phoebe all the time, it was a little bit demeaning in some level, and take his plate. He wanted to be more, he wanted to be someone. And he was being someone vicariously through a superstar. Yeah,
I do get a little bit of bitterness coming through this book. I mean, undoubtedly, he is a good person to document the daily life of Freddie Mercury because he was there.
Yeah.
But I feel we're getting kind of a skewed story about Freddie's relationships, that's all.
I agree. Yeah,
but
I agree.
Daily life about recording, touring, all of that stuff. Yeah, I think this is the guy who can tell us truly what happened.
Yeah. All right, so where he comes in it's the Crazy Tour.
It's 1979.
Yeah, 77 to 78 is when he actually put on the job of doing the clothes for this gala performance, and then got taken off on that tour.
Right.
They'd really taken off in 1974, Queen, with their Sheer Heart Attack album, Night at the Opera.
But they'd been established for a while, yeah.
Bohemian Rhapsody, yeah, that was 1974, We Will Rock You, We Are the Champions. Yeah, so by early 80s, they were massive. So he comes in just before they got stadium big. Because the first tour, he said they were playing 2,000 to 3,000 people. So that's small compared to where they got to.
Oh, my word, isn't it?
Yeah.
So he was brought on his wardrobe for...
Yeah, running
right?
wardrobe, yeah. And then sent out as shopper. He was their bitch. Wasn't he?
He was doing their laundry, wasn't he?
Yeah, hairbrushes, sorting everything out, just doing all that stuff.
Yeah. He was Mrs. Mop.
Yeah.
Sorry, talking of Freddie's names he would give people, I love that Cliff Richard, he said that in his house it was full of silver discs, so he called Cliff Richard Sylvia Disc. I think that's so funny. But anyway, sorry.
That's great.
So he's on the Crazy Tour at the end of the 1970s, and it lasts 6 weeks, and then it's over as soon as it began.
Yeah.
And he said he had an amazing time, and he wasn't ready for it to be over. He didn't think, when he accepted the job, he didn't think, there's going to be an end to it. But there was. And he said he really missed it because he got on well with everybody. He got on with the whole band.
Yes.
Sycophantic little shit. But then he got a phone call a bit late. Well, actually, no, let's talk. He says the observations he made from that first job. He says Freddie Mercury's perfectionism was just something to behold. So he really is one of those people like Prince, Michael Jackson, Madonna. They know what they want. They are single-minded in their vision. But actually what happens is that other people label them difficult.
Yes.
Because they're hard to work with, because they're perfectionists. I mean, I think it should be admired. And the level, the quality of performance you get from these people is unmatched.
Absolutely.
Apart from being matched with each other.
Yeah. That's every single one of them. That's an amazing four.
Yeah, but
four
I understand how that doesn't come easy for the people around them.
Yeah.
But I don't like it when it's talked about in a negative way, because they are exceptional people.
They really are.
And we can give them a bit of leeway in their strive to deliver us perfect art, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I think Freddie says at some point, people say the drum machines are faultless, but Roger Taylor will never, ever, ever miss a beat.
Yeah.
He is a drum machine. I mean, Brian May, the whole world can air guitar to his guitar solos. John Deacon's bass lines, insane. And then you've got Freddie. What a band. What a band.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, truly. I mean, I think sometimes you know how brilliant a band is individually when we know all their names. Like, we know all the names of the Beatles, we know the names of the Rolling Stones. But
That's
if you come
true.
to somebody like Coldplay, I only know Chris Martin. Can you name me any other member of Coldplay?
No.
Yeah, you see. You too? Do we know? Yeah, we know you.
We do now. We've read their book.
So the whole band are absolutely brilliant.
They're absolutely on it. And they all take turns writing, and they're really collaborative. Yeah, they're bloody amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they've knocked out some killer albums at this point when he joins them properly. What's their American tour? The Game?
What's interesting about their tours, he said the tours didn't used to make much money.
Yeah.
That they would be adverts to sell the albums. And it's very interesting that that's been completely flipped on its head now.
It is.
Because of streaming, people don't buy albums anymore. That's why people think concert tickets are astronomically priced now, which they are.
They really
but that's because people don't make the same amount of money off their albums anymore because everybody's streaming. So they make their money through their live gigs and selling T-shirts at their gigs.
Yeah, I guess, okay, when you're only playing 2,000 to 3,000 people before you've got a stadium big, let's say £10, 30 grand, yeah, what it would cost to fly everybody, ship all that equipment, blah, blah, blah. But once you're playing stadiums, if you made a bit of money from 3,000 people, imagine what you make from 30,000.
Yeah.
27,000 of those tickets are now like profit. You know what I mean? So I guess as soon as you get to arenas, you can't tell me you don't make profit once you're doing stadium tours. It's a sheer volume of them. Anyway, so in a nutshell, he describes them touring all over the world. He kind of divides this book into sections. So there's a whole section where he sort of talks about all the different tours, all the antics, the parties, the people they meet, the boyfriends that come and go, the gay bars they visit, you know, the friends they make along the way and take with them, whether they're boyfriends or they usually start off as boyfriends, don't they? And then you get a whole section where it's just talking about them making videos.
Yeah.
And a whole section, you know, it's divided up like that in this book. So it really does deliver all the facts you really want, if you really, really want Queen facts.
If you're a Queen fan, the minutiae of the detail is probably fascinating.
Yes.
But I think to the average person who wanted to find out more about Freddie Mercury, I think a lot of it's unnecessary.
Yeah, possibly.
And dare I say, a little bit boring.
Well, yeah, I guess we know what a massive gig's like. We know that they get riders and they drink this and do that and have a party after, get in dressing gowns, get motored away. But it's almost like he's this really naive bloke and he's seeing it all for the first time like a child. And so he's like writing it for the other person that never knew this happened.
Oh, no, that's him. Right, that's this guy is just lording it over all of us. He wants all of us to know he was the most important person in Freddie Mercury's life. Yeah, he's that boring friend who just... No, I have issues with this book. It's not to say I didn't enjoy it.
Yeah.
I did find out lots of information, but towards the end, I'm going to rip this guy a new one when we get to the end of Freddie's life, because I think it's appalling what he does in this book. But anyway.
Yeah, fine.
I also think he misunderstands Freddie Mercury, because he says that Freddie Mercury deliberately contrives arguments with his boyfriends before he goes onto stage because he needs the surge of passion to get the performance. I think that's a huge misunderstanding. I think we talked about Farouk Bulsara becoming Freddie Mercury. So we know there's a lot of insecurity there. As these concerts are getting bigger and they're playing bigger arenas, that's hugely stressful. I mean, that's kind of terrifying as well. Yeah, and the pressure. I think the arguments with the boyfriends happen because Freddie's very nervous and worked up and stressed about going onto stage.
Yes.
And Peter Freestone, who wrote this book, kind of says, I see every time before there's a big concert, Freddie deliberately contrives an argument with his boyfriend to get into the energy. No. It's the other way around. He's stressed out about performing, and so the arguments just happen.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think there is some misunderstanding of Freddie in this book. I do.
Yeah, I agree. Some of them are really bad, like it gets bitten on between his thumb and forefinger. I'm thinking you only get bitten there if you've actually got your hand clamped around that other person's face, by the way.
Right.
I thought that through. So you bite it to get the hand off you.
Right, this is before the Queen are about to play the Milton Keynes Bowl, which is arguably, at the time, the biggest concert you can play in England, right?
Yes, yeah.
Freddie's seeing a guy called Bill Reed, who Peter Freestone manages to squeeze in, was not the tallest man in the world. Honestly, he's so jealous of all of Freddie's boyfriends. Yeah, and he says that this was frighteningly violent relationship. Well, I hate hearing that.
Yeah.
And so before the Milton Keynes Bowl, this little guy bites Freddie. I mean, he bites him. That's spousal abuse. It's horrendous, actually.
But it's like I say, if you think about it, if your thumb and forefinger are over someone's mouth, you might be trying to shut them up with your hand. That might be how you get bitten.
Yeah.
It sounds like it was two-way fights the whole time. A bit like, how Boy George and John Moss used to have physical fights all the time before they went on stage.
Yeah, it's just the stress of being a worldwide icon, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Do you think they all do? Elton John's an arsehole as well.
Yes, and him and John Reid used to have massive fights. Oh, my God.
Didn't they? Yeah.
Yeah. But then there's passion, because those relationships last for ages. If it was really bad, you'd just pack it in. Because he chucked away loads and loads of boyfriends easily. Just bought my plane ticket. He kept that Bill Reid in his life forever. He was even popping back later in life, even when he's long since sacked.
Yeah, I think the pressure of worldwide fame, I think it turns people into monsters, actually. And I think the people with them, for example, the boyfriend, obviously is going out with Freddie Mercury. You want to keep that. That's the prize goose in boyfriends. So I think you put up with an awful lot of bad behavior, but I think it's very difficult. And I understand why they turn into screaming matches and you end up getting bitten on your hand. I get it.
Yeah.
And not to say I approve in any way, shape or form, but I understand how these terrible arguments happen.
Yeah.
People should just walk away. But if your boyfriend's Freddie Mercury, how do you walk away from that?
Yeah, I don't know. But they didn't. They just went out with other people on the side until they got caught. That seems to be what they did.
Oh, dear.
Meanwhile, he was, shagging his way through every single city in the world with his Spartacus guides to gay bars. So, I mean, he said he could be promiscuous, but his boyfriends couldn't. So, I mean, bloody hell.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want to be one. But he made some great friends that way. It sounds like they had a hoot. Of course, there's a lot of drugs involved, we must mention.
Yes.
There's a lot of drugs, a lot of drinking, and a lot of sex with strangers or otherwise. A lot of good times.
Yeah, they're just having a fun rock star life.
Yeah.
They were all at it, weren't they?
Yeah, that's the good times.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's extremely promiscuous, obviously, but that was his major hobby, and being one of those energy people.
Yeah.
He just needed an outlet, and that was his main thing.
And he's male.
Yeah, there's that as well.
It's like, the other bands were shagging groupies morning, noon and night,
That's exactly it.
It's just what they do.
It's just the same.
Yeah. It's fun, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you're 30, it's fun, I imagine.
And he is, and he's very fit.
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
As I sit here with my cup of tea and jigsaw puzzle.
Jigsaw puzzles are very thrilling.
Oh, do you know what I love? The one thing I love which really endeared me to Freddie Mercury in this book is that sometimes he would force Scrabble upon everyone.
Yeah.
If they were in the recording studio and it just wasn't happening for any reason, he would just get Scrabble out, and he insisted that everybody played from, the other members of Queen to the tape operator.
Yeah.
And I kind of, do you know what? He's a bit of a little nerd inside it all. I loved that.
Yeah, it's great. And he loves cats. It's like he absolutely adores his cats.
Yeah, well,
they're his favourite thing.
I think that's a sign of a really good person.
Yeah, agreed.
Cat people are the best.
Yeah.
He would phone his cats when he was on tour.
I know.
Talk to them on the phone. I mean, that's amazing. I like Freddie Mercury can do no wrong. I don't care that he beats up his boyfriends.
And vice versa.
Yeah, he likes scrabbling cats. He's all right by me.
He's all right.
Yeah.
I'll tell you something else I learned a lot about was Mary Austin, because I've seen her in documentaries and they talk to her and she's always never says anything. Did he marry her, or were they just engaged or something?
They were together in the early stages of like
they
Freddie's
lived together.
English. Yeah, and they literally lived together as man and wife. She thought she was in a relationship with her boyfriend, and then at some point, after a few years, he came out to her. And they seem to have worked through that. I think they had a very close friendship. And what I do know, that Freddie left her his house in the will.
Yeah, Garden Lodge.
So I think that tells you how close they were. And what's actually more interesting about this book is actually she's quite absent for a lot of it as well.
She is, but I've still learned more about her than I've ever learned from a documentary where she never speaks.
Oh, okay.
I've really learned how much he loved her and how much part of his life. Like, he'd actually employed her, because he employed a lot of people that he wanted to keep close, so they had a job. But he employed her as his personal secretary, so that she dealt with all the financial stuff. He had like lawyers and all those people, but it all went through her, so she could keep an eye on it. So he never got ripped off like a lot of other people do.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. I never knew that she was around for his whole life right to the end. And she only lived round the corner. And that she looked after the cats.
Yeah.
He had sort of kept this separate life when he wanted his parents to think he was respectable. So they really didn't know about his whole gay lifestyle. So when they came round to Garden Lodge for lunch or whatever with his sister, Mary was always there. So it always looked like he had this female partner and everything was normal. And all the mustachioed men disappeared, And then right to the end, when he talks about the very small circle of people that were looking after Freddie, she was one of them right to the end. It's just, I didn't know that. I just thought she was part of his past.
One thing about this book, which makes me understand why she was around his whole life, is because Freddie Mercury had trouble trusting people.
Yes.
Which, of course, you do when you're Freddie Mercury.
Yes.
It's hard to know who's there for the right reasons. And I think because she was there at the beginning of the fame, also, I'm guessing the way she would have reacted when he came out to her. I mean, that must have been a horrible shock for her.
Yeah.
She stuck by him and they had this amazing friendship. I think he truly trusted her.
And loved her.
Yeah, and he kept that very, very close. Yeah, Peter Freestone says that Freddie Mercury can only love you once he trusts you.
Yeah, that's right.
And I think he found that very few times in his life. And I think that's what makes Mary Austin such a vital part of his life.
Yeah. The difference is, to this day, she'll never spill. She keeps it really quiet, whereas this bloke spilled it all.
Yeah, she won't write a book. She won't do a Priscilla Presley tour.
She never would. She won't even talk.
Yeah, because Freddie Mercury was right then, wasn't he? He could trust her implicitly.
Yeah. And Peter always says, oh, yeah, Mary Austin was there with her latest boyfriend. He
does dig at these people. He tries to undermine them, a lot of Freddie's close people.
Yeah, because she had kids with someone, but I think then they split up. But she would have never loved anyone as much as she loved Freddie. You get the idea.
Yeah.
Nobody could fill in that place. You see pictures of them together. It's lovely, actually.
Oh, I think we all need a Mary Austin in our lives.
Do we?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah. His collection of friends is brilliant. Peter Straker's the one that stands out. Really goes far back. He's an actor. I've seen him in a musical. A very strange, tiny little musical above a gay bar in London with the bloke from Erasure. Andy Bell was in it.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, it was so weird because he obviously couldn't remember his lines and he had a clipboard.
Oh, no.
It's really weird. But yeah, I was like, wow, that's Freddie Mercury's best friend. But he's been acting forever. All the time he was friends with Freddie, he was always acting, and sometimes they'd go and see him in shows and stuff. And he got all his showbiz friends through Peter Straker. And obviously he was just a hilarious laugh. He said you could always rely on him when he just needed to laugh. And that was right to the end. And then you got this other character, Barbara Valentin, who was an Australian actress. He says she's the Diana Dors of the German film world. Oh my God, I looked at pictures of her. She looks like Olivia Newton-John, and then during the time she's friends with Freddie, she just becomes this very large, bleached blonde, massive boobed tart. It's amazing. She just completely starts looking like her own mother within about 5 years. But she sounds like a real character as well. He doesn't have so many of these female friends,
But the guy who's written this book says in one paragraph that towards the end, Freddie throws out Barbara Valentin and Peter Straker.
Yes, that's true.
And he says he doesn't know why.
Oh,
but he said that Barbara Valentin, they figured out that she was selling stories to the press because a story came out that said that Freddie and Barbara were going to marry.
Yeah.
And they're like, where the hell did that come from? And it's like, there's only one place it could have come from.
There isn't one place. They could have made it up completely.
But actually thinking about it, and the guy who wrote this book could have done it. If he was like nervous of people getting closer to Freddie than he was.
If he wanted to get rid of people.
Yeah, I did think that.
But also, the newspapers themselves could have just made it up. We all know they can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just totally could have made it up. And so they start to get very paranoid near the end of this. Don't forget there's a lot of drugs, I must remind you, because that can make you really paranoid. See, he fell out with Kenny Everett, who was a great friend, and he's the one who launched Bohemian Rhapsody, got it played on the radio, the full-length song. So they can really owe Queen's success massively to
Kenny Everett.
And they bloody fell out.
Yeah, but I love why they fell out, right? Because it seems absurd. Because they were doing huge amounts of coke and stuff, right?
Yeah.
This wasn't even an argument face-to-face from Kenny Everett and Freddie Mercury. But it got back to Freddie that Kenny Everett was saying that Freddie never buys his own drugs. He's always taking them off other people. And then Freddie Mercury said, well, that's rich coming from you because that's exactly what Kenny Everett does. Anyway, you kind of think that's so petty that these millionaires would be arguing about who pays for the drugs.
Yes.
But also, in a previous paragraph, this guy who wrote the book says that when they go out for a meal, Freddie Mercury never takes money. So the assistant, Peter, is paying for everybody in the restaurant with Freddie Mercury's own credit card. So he is essentially paying, but he doesn't actually pay because he's always had servants and stuff. So I kind of get why Kenny Everett might think that Freddie Mercury never, ever supplied his own drugs, because he probably didn't actually.
Right. It looks like that Peter's doing it because he's the one he actually describes how he has to go and buy all the different drugs. Doesn't he? He actually describes that.
But so Kenny Everett and Freddie Mercury fell out over something just completely stupid.
Yeah, bitchy gossip. It's absolute nonsense.
Yeah.
That's sad.
Yeah. Michael Jackson. I had no idea that Freddie and Michael Jackson even were in the studio at the same time. Did you know all this?
Well, I have the Jackson's Victory album, which has got State of Shock on it, which is one of my all-time favourite songs.
But that's Mick Jagger, isn't it?
It's Mick Jagger, Michael Jackson and Freddie. All three voices are on it.
What? Freddie Mercury's on State of Shock? I did not know this.
Yes. There's a really rubbish mashup video being made and you see all three of them. I sort of imagine they were never in the studio at the same time. I imagine they recorded it all separately.
Right.
You can't really hear them all properly. You can really hear Michael and Mick, but you can't really hear Freddie. But then it says when they were all at it wasn't Neverland, it was his house before that, Encino. He had this massive studio there and they spent 5 to 6 hours there. And they did 3 songs when they were together and one of them was State of Shock. So they actually were together working on that, and that's really good for me to know as one of my favourite songs of all time, because I just imagine they'd never met to do that.
I had no idea they were ever worked together.
They did 3 songs together. Yeah, apparently. And Queen were fighting to get it on an album, to get all 3 on an album, but then Michael Jackson's estate wouldn't let it happen, so...
Well, Freddie put the song There Must Be More to Life Than This. It's actually on Freddie Mercury's solo album.
Yeah, that's right. And it's on Queen... some other Queen compilation that came out in 2014. So that's out there. State of Shock's out there. But and the other one that is unreleased. So yeah, it's pretty cool. And he absolutely massively admired Michael Jackson.
And Prince. You must have loved reading this.
To find exactly. I was very happy that he loves Prince. Yeah, he said he had a video of him live and he played it all the time to everyone who'd come round, much to everyone's annoyance. That's good.
So look, Queen are on top of the world. They're massively famous. And then they do the Works album, which begins with Radio Gaga, which is a massive worldwide hit, massive in America. Queen are really becoming, well, they're consolidating their title of like the world's greatest rock band. And then they bring out the anthem, which is I Want to Break Free. And they dress up as women in the video, and it basically kills their career in America overnight.
It's really sad because we all knew that it was a pastiche on Coronation Street, which is our very popular soap opera.
Yes.
So we could literally see that they were playing characters in this working class, funny soap opera world, but America couldn't see that. They just saw four men in drag.
Yeah.
That were supposed to be rock stars.
And of course it ties in with the song.
Yes.
I Want to Break Free. They're being these drudge housewives.
Yes.
And it made total sense in England.
Yes, it did.
But America didn't have the cultural reference point of Coronation Street.
No.
So it just looked like they were dressing up as women, which they were. But
and maybe to them, I Want to Break Free was I want to wear drag.
Right. And it killed their career in America overnight.
Killed it, yeah. I mean, they're back now. They love them now again. But it killed it for, I don't know, they couldn't tour there anymore.
That was the last tour they did in America because of that video. I mean, I'm so shocked. But do you know what? At the same time, Culture Club killed their career overnight. Boy George was the biggest thing in America. And when they accepted their Grammy, Boy George said, oh, thanks, America. You know a good drag queen when you see one.
Yeah.
And then they dropped off the face of the earth as far as America was concerned.
Dead.
Yeah, also, I was thinking about this just this morning. You know, it was Reagan's America.
Yeah.
The early 80s was very, very macho, actually. It was Clint Eastwood. It was Magnum. It was Sylvester Stallone. You know, and then to see a man in a miniskirt pushing a vacuum cleaner around, it was just too much.
Yeah, they don't have panto, you know. They don't
right.
Yeah. Oh, the AIDS crisis as well was at its height.
Yeah.
So everyone's afraid of anything seemingly gay.
Right, yeah. There was so much going on.
Yeah.
And actually, what happened then, the backlash from that was so much that actually the other members of Queen were getting really depressed. And then Freddie Mercury said, okay, we need a sabbatical. And that's when he started working on his solo album. And what I didn't know is that when they came to play that phenomenal set at Live Aid, they hadn't played together for a couple of years and they went into intense rehearsals.
Yeah.
I had no idea that they were on a sabbatical at that point.
Me neither. I guess you're hearing Queen all the time on the radio, so you just assume they're still going.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's amazing because that performance is another key thing which really consolidated them as like rock gods.
Yeah.
And actually that's amazing to think they hadn't been playing together.
It is,
for
but
a while.
also that they're wise enough to massively, intensely rehearse for a week to make sure, because they understood the platform they had. But that picture of Freddie with his hand in the air in his yellow jacket and white tracksuit, pretty sure that's from Live Aid. But it's like the symbol of Live Aid. And to be honest, you know, we keep covering people that played Live Aid, but I'm pretty sure that Queen won Live Aid, didn't they?
They won.
Sure
they did.
They nailed it.
Oh, no, they absolutely did. Yeah.
They won the gold.
If you say to anybody what was the best thing about Live Aid, it's Queen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
100%.
So they're absolutely back. And that led them straight into doing the next album, which was Kind of Magic, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was Kind of Magic.
Yeah, so then they were really back on track, really inspired again. So many great songs from that. Unbelievable. I mean, their song list is unbelievable of their whole time.
Oh, they are worthy holders of like the greatest British rock band who ever lived. They got the tunes.
They really have the tunes.
So they're massively riding the wave of massive success after Live Aid and a Kind of Magic album. And then Freddie is still doing bits on the side. He does the Great Pretender single, which is a massive hit in the UK. And then he does the Barcelona album with Montserrat Caballé. Do you know what? I revisited it after Well, actually, I revisited the song after reading this book. I did not know they'd done a whole album together, and I can't wait to go and give it a proper listen.
I bought the single and I still play it because it's on my jukebox.
Oh, it's brilliant.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing.
And I love the fact that he'd seen her in opera a few years before and was completely captivated, and then kind of just bided his time. And then when he got in touch with her, it's like anybody else meeting Freddie Mercury. I mean, he was in awe of this woman.
He was so in awe he could hardly speak.
Yeah.
And they said that when most people meet their heroes, they warm to them after a while and they get more and more relaxed. He get more and more nervous over the period of time he knew her because he got more and more in awe of her. Yeah. It's just that amazing.
She sounds like a real hoot, though, doesn't she?
Really
and I'm shocked that I'm shocked that she smokes.
Oh my God.
I mean,
how can you smoke when you've got a voice of a temple or whatever?
This is where this book really stands up. Like the whole process of that Barcelona album, the meetings with Montserrat Caballé. I loved reading it for that alone.
And how totally up for it she was straight away.
Yeah.
She was like, I'd love to do this. Well, let's make an album. It's her idea. Let's do a whole album. How long does that take? She'd never done pop. She'd never, ever done anything other than opera. And she was totally up for it. She took it away, rehearsed it. Then she premiered this one song at Covent Garden in front of the whole opera. Afterwards, went and made Freddie stand up and he wasn't expecting it. It's just such a real enthusiasm to cross over and dabble in different types of music.
Yeah.
She's brilliant.
The song Barcelona is just astonishing. It's just like a thing of its own.
Oh, my God.
And also, of course, what I didn't realise at the time, or even now until it's written in this book, Freddie Mercury thought that Barcelona might have been the last album he did because he knew he was ill and he was beginning to fail.
Yeah.
And so the fact that after that he went on to do the Miracle Queen album and then Innuendo, another Queen album, he kind of thought the writing was on the wall for a long time.
He was diagnosed with HIV in 1987.
Right. That would be around this time, I think.
Yeah.
He knew something was up. I think getting diagnosed is just confirmation. He would have, obviously, since the beginning of the early 80s, he would have known it was a thing and he would have known how much at risk he would have been.
Yes.
So the fact he was diagnosed is... Oh, I hate HIV and AIDS. I
know.
Really do. It's just so unfair.
I know.
But, the whole Barcelona thing, I think it took Freddie to another level working with a singer the caliber of Montserrat Caballé. Look,
yes.
Freddie was already amazing. We know that. He was world class. But kind of going away, being immersed in a different world and working with someone like Montserrat Caballé, I think it really informed his work going forwards. It gave him a new maturity.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean.
Agreed.
I love it when, say, like Gaga did that jazz album. You think, why is she doing this? But actually she became a better person afterwards. She's already good. And it's like Madonna with Evita. It's like she was already good, but having to sing like that in a different arena, it then moves you to another level again. And I think that happened with Freddie Mercury through this opera.
Yeah, and to trust your own compositions and it's all you. He got a bit of help on lyrics and stuff, but he composed music that Montserrat Caballé was up for singing. It's really validating that you are a good musician.
It's interesting as well because people have always said that Queen, like Bohemian Rhapsody, they always say, it's operatic. It is, but it's not opera.
Yeah.
It's like such a different,
right.
difficult discipline. And you could argue, like how the opera world has massive divas like Montserrat Caballé. Well, actually, Freddie Mercury was the equivalent in the world of rock.
A rock diva.
He was a diva.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, in a way, not such an unusual pairing. But when you actually look at the bones of it, it is actually completely different.
Yeah.
And for Freddie Mercury to go and do, it's astonishing. And the result is astonishing. And like I say, I didn't know there was an album and I just cannot wait. Oh, hang on. Just another curveball through reading this book. Tim Rice helped him with some of the lyrics here.
Yes. Yeah.
And they became friends because Elaine Page recorded an album of Queen songs. Did you know this?
No, I did not know that.
Oh, my
it's amazing.
word.
And then he became really good mates with Elaine Page as well.
That's another album to listen to, or not.
Yeah.
I'm guessing it kind of didn't do very well, if neither of us have heard about it.
That's true, yeah. It's an odd pairing.
It's very odd.
Yeah, but there you go. It's proof that the Queen could do musical theatre because We Will Rock You is a musical that's still being played around the world to this day. Been going forever.
God, it's so naff. Have you seen it?
Yes, I have. It's quite a shock. It's not what I thought. It's like this weird story with Queen songs over it.
Yeah, I know.
To be fair, I saw it in German. So it was on roller skates.
What, are you sure you didn't see Starlight Express? What are you talking about?
No, it was we were on cue.
On roller skates?
No, it was really, really strange. Yeah, on roller skates. And not only that, but they were all miming. They were even miming the dialogue.
No.
It took me ages to notice they didn't have radio mics. So it's extremely weird.
What, it was just a massive lip sync?
Yes, a massive lip sync. How strange is that?
Bizarre.
I know. I've got to say that the point where the book totally took off for me is when they start saying how artistic Freddie was, because he went to art college after all. And that in another life he could have been an interior designer. Because I've got a massive thing about nosing around fancy houses, especially rock stars' houses, like MTV Cribs would be my favourite decor programme. And then you get this totally amazing written description of every single room in that Garden Lodge house, and every wallpaper and every furniture and lamp and light fitting and painting and style. And you go from room to room to room to bathroom to everywhere. And, you know, he's got a Japanese room and he's bought the wallpaper in Japan. He's bought the carpet there and this there. I can see it all. And I was absolutely so hooked on that whole chapter. And then he bought these other two houses at the bottom of the garden so he could join them through and knock it through and make this conservative. If you're into like rock star interior design, that is to die for, that chapter. It's absolutely brilliant.
Okay, you only found it interesting because you're a designer yourself. Honestly, me reading that, I've never been so bored. I do not need to know about the patterns on Freddie Mercury's carpets or how many pot plants and the pots they were in. No, it was too long and it was too detailed.
Really?
And I was reading it thinking, literally no one needs to know this.
That's
and I
funny.
think the only reason Peter Freestone has included this level of detail is so he can let us know yet again that he was there in the room with Freddie Mercury. Well, we know
my God, I was going, this is the best chapter in the book.
Oh, I can't tell you how bored I was reading that. I was angry. I was thinking, why are you telling me this? I don't need to know any of it. Skirting boards, shut up.
Yeah, that's to you. To me, that was a tour. That was the tour I wanted around the house. I could picture it. I loved it. Anyway, right.
Okay, do you know what? We're actually running out of time now.
We are.
So we should get to the end bit, which made me really angry about Freddie. So we all know that Freddie Mercury contracted HIV at some point in the 80s and he did die of AIDS.
Yeah.
And Peter Freestone is there in the house. You know, we all know that. But what we actually don't know is the slow decline that happened. And I think you can kind of see it in the last video. His physical appearance has changed.
You could see it. You really could.
But, you know, we don't know about the bits when Freddie's eyesight is failing. And then he's walking down the stairs at the auction house and he stumbles on the step. Like his sense of perspective is leaving him. So actually, this is a slow decline that Freddie Mercury is having to come to terms with. And it must be terrifying to know that the end is coming at some point and it's not going to be easy. I hated reading this. It gave me a new perspective, actually.
Yeah, and he's so private about it. And he kept it from a lot of his friends and a lot of his staff even. He even kept it from Peter for a long time, which proves that he wasn't quite in the inner circle as you might think.
I think Freddie Mercury had a tremendously hard time coming to terms with it. And then when he kind of realizes he's failing, at the end of 1991, he decides he's going to stop taking the drugs that are basically keeping him alive. So that's a decision made then, isn't it? That, you know, he's not interested in prolonging the agony.
It's quality of life. No. Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I have a theory about the last video as well. It's These Are the Days of Our Lives. And Freddie does look different. He's obviously lost weight.
Yeah. He's so frail.
Yeah, but do you know what? I think this, you know, we were talking about him having energy and him starting life as Farouk Bulsara and then creating Freddie Mercury. And Freddie Mercury is this dynamic, energetic rock star. But we know that we talked earlier about that being the butterfly and him not wanting to talk about being the caterpillar and the chrysalis Farouk. You know, that's in the past. He's Freddie Mercury.
Yeah.
What I feel in that last video, when he's failing and his energy has gone, there are glimmers of Freddie Mercury and like his hand expressions and stuff. But I think we're getting Farouk Bulsara in that video.
Right.
I think he doesn't have, like, he's lost the energy to be Freddie Mercury. And I think we're actually seeing the real man. But also what's good about that is we can actually see how much of Farouk was actually in Freddie Mercury.
That's true.
It was like an exaggerated version of him. Yeah, I found it very hard to watch, and I don't like that last album they released posthumously. I you know, like the Johnny Cash album he recorded basically 6 months before he died. I can't listen to it; it's too upsetting.
Yeah, you can hear the pain.
Yeah, and I feel like this about these later Queen tracks actually. Oh, but my God, we're getting the whole of the artist's journey, aren't we? Do you know what I mean?
I know. Yeah. But he said, you know, he still has so many songs left in him that really hurt him to go.
Yeah.
When he still has so much music left in him.
Oh, here's the thing. This is why I hate the guy that wrote this book. Like, we were just talking about his house, how he like explained every single detail. And he did. And he went through every single Queen video. He talked about every single Queen LP cover.
Yeah.
He really goes in to minute detail. I think it's disrespectful to give us that level of detail regarding Freddie Mercury's last days and his death. I'm not even going to repeat. I'll tell you quickly now. He basically says he... How dare you write that in this book? Like, I don't need to know that. That does not...
No, I wouldn't either.
Pay tribute to any memory anybody wants of Freddie Mercury.
No.
And then... Right, I stopped reading, right? And then I was glancing the last few pages because I felt so angry that this guy was going to a level of detail that nobody needs to know.
Yeah.
But then, well, as I was glancing, it looked like he was even describing Freddie Mercury's body coming out in a body bag and being loaded into the back of the van and driven off.
No.
It's like, you just don't do that in a book about this magnificent man. Again, no, this is a book because Peter Freestone wants us to know that he was there and he witnessed it. Well, I'm sorry, Peter Freestone, fuck you. We know you were there.
Yeah.
You don't need to prove it to us for the millionth time by telling us you saw his body bag leave the house. It made me so angry.
I know. He actually says, I wish I'd never seen that. He describes
I wish he
what
never
he saw,
told us.
and then says, I wish I'd never seen that. So why would you tell us then? Yeah, I know. I totally agree with you.
It's the Paul Burrell thing that we hit upon at the beginning.
It is.
He doesn't have his own... he's completely living vicariously through...
No, he doesn't have his personality without...
You're right. His personality
totally
is Freddie Mercury.
Yes, it is.
And he wants us all to know it.
It is selling your story to the press, except you're taking all of the profit from it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how you look at it.
Do you know what? Honestly, I don't think a book we've read before, and we've read a lot now, has ever made me this angry.
I told you not to read the end, didn't I? Because I was a bit ahead of you. I said, don't read the end.
Yeah.
But I thought it would upset you.
It
I
did.
didn't think it'd make you angry. It did both. Yeah.
I think it's just so disrespectful to the memory of the person to describe how they completely failed at the end of their life.
Especially to such a private person and somebody who really valued that privacy near the end and kept it so quiet and would like to be remembered as the amazing star they are.
Yeah.
In fact, that's what we must stop talking about, him talking about that then, and just remember that. I mean, he was 45, for God's sake, 45.
Oh, God.
You know, he never got to get old, and he was just an absolute bright, shining star of a one-off amazing character that brought that music to so many people around the world, and we still listen to it. And they have tried to carry on without Freddie, but they can't. I mean, they do, but they can't.
Do you know as well, you can argue that his legacy as well, of course, is that if you have HIV now, you can actually live a long life with it. And I think probably being the most high-profile person who died of AIDS probably went a long way to, research and fundraising.
That's true.
They've had massive concerts since which have been raising money for research into HIV, etc. So actually the fact that it's just a horrible thing of timing as well, because if he was alive now, he wouldn't have died at the age of 45.
Yeah. Well, he announced he had AIDS. They announced he had AIDS the day before he died. So, and I absolutely remember all of that because we lived through it, didn't we? First that shock, and the next day he died.
Yeah, he's gone the next day.
And none of us knew he was gay. Well, I didn't. Somebody who knew him said to me, "Some of us did, dear." This panto dame I know. And I thought, oh, amazing. But I didn't know. And you know, he also paved the way to then be a rock star man. Just to be himself without being labelled right to the end.
I think what's actually amazing about Freddie Mercury and his testament to his showmanship and his talent and his energy is that I think most people at that time who may have died of an AIDS-related disease or whatever would be remembered for that.
Yes.
But actually you remember so many other things about Freddie Mercury, and then you kind of think,
yes,
oh,
absolutely.
do you know what? I remember
Didn't
he died of
define him.
AIDS, but it does not define him. It doesn't.
No.
His music,
No.
his talent, his showmanship is the thing that
Yes.
we all remember.
Yeah, that's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, he's an absolute icon, isn't he?
Yeah, he really is.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Thrift Shop Biography. We love making this podcast and we're absolutely thrilled that so many of you are already listening. You could really help us out by leaving us a review somewhere, wherever you listen to this podcast. And if you could share us, tell your friends about us, or drop some links on social media. We have a Facebook page called Thrift Shop Biography, so make sure you come over there to hear about the episodes first and what else we're up to. Okay, see you next week. And if you're new here, there are loads more episodes now to go and listen in the back catalogue, so make sure you go and enjoy them. Okay, thank you very much.